Good morning, Master.
Good morning to you, Meenakshi, Tripura Sundari.
Master, I have a question which has been playing on my mind for quite some time. And even though you have explained to me about this in the past, I wanted an even more detailed understanding of a particular phenomenon.
Uh-huh.
And the question is about mantras.
Mantras.
Yes.
Hmm.
There are many recommendations now that mantras help with stress management.
With
And
what?
with stress management.
Okay, all right, yeah.
And you have given me a mantra for my personal growth and development.
Hmm.
While I chant the mantra religiously as per your instructions and advice, I would like to understand the operating mechanism of mantra and how it can change the neural pathways in the brain. Can you explain the dynamics of its operation?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, of course. It would have been better if there is a diagram of the central nervous system including autonomic nervous system. Then it would have been better. Perhaps you can look into those diagrams easily available in the internet or in good textbooks on human physiology. Okay, so that any entity starting with an earthworm to the human being is moving through. Its process of existence is enabled by the functions of the central nervous system. At the human level, it is more or less well known, available in the textbooks at the school level. The brain, the spinal cord that emanate from the bottom of the brain, ending till the last vertebra of the vertebral column. Uh, the, the, the intermingling, intertwined two strings of nerves called the spinal cord. Uh, and from that spinal cord emerges distributing lines to small transformers. Let us say if the brain is a central power station, electricity or electric current or energy flow goes down the spinal cord, and then there are sub-transformers like in the electric supply system, so which are called ganglia, ganglions, which are little huge structures of neuron cells. There are about 36 pairs, apparently I suppose, of ganglion cells arranged beautifully on either side of the spinal column. So the main energy from the brain flows down through the spinal cord and goes to these ganglions. From each of those ganglions, further nerve fibers, further electric lines go to every part of the human body. Okay? And that is the system which is called autonomic nervous system. That are the operating electric supply to the entire body. So I would look at autonomic nervous system as the operating center of what we call the mind. Operating center. The process center is the cerebral cortex, where our cognitive functions or analytical thinking or imagination, visualization, cognition, sensitivity, data processing, all that happens in the cerebral cortex. But the neurons in the brain cannot do any action. They are just a signal detection, signal processing. Action or activity, if neurons are knowing, the doing happens by the being of the autonomic nervous system only. Get the point?
Yes.
And autonomic nervous system fibers are connecting to every part of the body, till the tip of the skin. That is why, for example, the so-called lie detector tests, you just attach a sensitivity, whatever tape on the skin of the hand, connect it to an oscilloscope or whatever computer this thing, and culprit is sitting there. You ask a question, were you there at 9 o'clock yesterday? If he has a split second of doubt or confusion to conceal the truth that he was actually present and to say no, there's a split second delay. That delay will be indicated in the flow of the electrical current. Okay? So that much is the work of the autonomic nervous system. That work of the autonomic nervous system happened because of a split second doubt, should I say this or not? If I say this, I will be arrested. And even a clever thief will quickly say no. But in that no itself, at least the volume would be different compared to other no's, anything. That the experience, the analysis of the curves of pattern of electrical curve shown in the computer screen and recorded, and they can investigate it like you do graphical analysis of handwriting. Alright. Now that is the clue. That is the clue. On one side and on the other side. Mantra. Mantrams are sounds. Any mantram is a sound structure. In general, population talks about Gayatri Mantram. Okay. Actually, Gayatri is not a mantram, it is an invocation of the force of the sun that delivers all the energy fields by which sustenance is happening of all existence on planet Earth. So it is a kind of an offering of gratitude to the sun. It is not a mantram. Mantrams in its class sense are that which is uttered, that which is just murmuring, mandrikya. In Malayalam language you can call mandrikya. Okay? It is almost like a murmuring. So mantrams are to be sounded, not kept in the mind. Whereas you can keep a prayer or an invocation in the mind and chant it in the mind, in the memory, in that stream of consciousness. But a mantram should be uttered. Not necessarily in a huge volume, but the radio is turned on, but with the minimum volume, but that should be uttered. Why it should be uttered? Because, why it should be sounded? Because sound is the greatest property of the universe or planet Earth. No entity can create sound. When the strings of the guitar or the violin or the veena vibrates, the air column vibrates. So sound is a phenomenon of the air elements. Okay? One of the bhutas, one of the elements. Okay? One. And then that vibrations in the surrounding air column will be heard, that reverberations will affect the ear or the listening centers, listening sensitivity centers of the person who utters it also.
Yes.
Actually, mantrams are sounded and that sound is heard by the very entity itself. Alright? Now, third point. What is even a normal word? Language is nothing but an assemblage of words. A word is what? We are not talking about the written word, we are talking about the sounded word. What is a sounded word? Nothing but a linkage of certain sounds, that's all. Any word is a sound. Malayalam word is a certain sound structure which we name as Malayalam. Tamil word or English words or French words or Japanese words, they are all sound structures. And those sound structures are just maintained by continuous practice in the neuronal networks of the parietal area or the certain brain areas. Okay. That's all. The language that we speak are not scripted anywhere in the body or in the brain. They are all registered as neuronal networks only. Okay. Now, the fourth point. A certain neuronal network triggered in an individual when he or she is thoroughly criticized or blamed or yelled at by somebody, why it generates a so-called emotion or feeling in the very body? Because this similar neuronal patterns have been trained to understand, again neural network, that that person insulted me. Insulted me also is understood again by neural network. So I am this self, this talking or this witnessing entity is put into a low, LOW, low position. So what is low position? That's also a neural network. All these things work. And it touches that survival instinct even, that I am being annihilated. It is in that direction. I am being insulted, I am being put down by this language. And it is revealed as increased heartbeat or increased respiration, a general feeling of unsettled condition. Okay? The person might feel like crying or feeling congested, feeling constrained, or feeling whatever one feels when a person is intimidated by another person by language, by violent language. Alright? So the connection between language and autonomic nervous system, because this increased palpitation of the heart or increased respiration or so-called emotion of depression or sadness or unpleasantness is produced in the sounding of the autonomic nervous system nerve distribution. Because in normal time, in between, to tell you, this autonomic nervous system is divided into two sections. One section comprising the lower and the upper part of the ganglionic distribution, and the other section, the middle part. In normal relaxed condition, the flow of energy of these two areas is in equilibrium. Okay? When there is extra current coming from the spinal cord, by virtue of perception of a language, perception of some event, etc., then the electrical supply is disturbed. Like your electrical supply to the home will be disturbed if there is violent wind and rain around. Okay?
Yes.
The lines get touching each other, then the lights will dim and all that, then the fuse will go, etc., etc. Same process happens in the very body. All this I am giving as evidences of the possible, probable way by which mantra would work in a different level. Now, in what way, for another angle is, let us say somebody is sitting there on the couch or the sofa, suddenly there is a thought coming about the economic problem. The job may be affected soon, I may be asked to resign, it may affect my family, etc., etc. That thought is there. Then there is a corresponding feeling in the chest region, let us say so. Now, the other parallel to that, whenever there is a disturbance in the body by means of wrong food or wrong positioning of the body, there is some emotion develops in the person. What you call in psychology a free-floating anxiety, or negative thoughts, disturbing thoughts, okay, depressing thoughts, panic-generating thoughts. And at that panic generation thoughts, the body process is involved. Then you can also do a research. What feeling of the body is translated into language of so-called thoughts that my life is going to be ruined, or modern people by the campaign of the medical what you call industry, headache. Okay, it is interpreted as possible, probable blood pressure increase, or a feeling in the chest is languageified as I am going to have some problem. So how that conversion into language happens? So these are all indirect linkages of evidences, so that now you can translate or transpose these ideas into understanding how mantrams will work in a certain direction towards the evolution of similar body processes, by which the system, the self, interpreted as blissfulness, let us say so.
Yes.
What is pleasant feeling? You see a beautiful dance program, or you listen to a beautiful sight of the nature process, or you see a beautiful bird or a flower in your courtyard. It generates certain pleasant feeling. You only saw a bird coming and sitting on a rail of the balcony. What generates that feeling? Oh, wow, wow, whatever. Which can be described sometimes, which may not be described sometimes, but one thing is so sure, that you experienced a moment of blissfulness, a moment of ecstasy. So you saw that bird coming and sitting on the flower of your garden. You saw that, that's all, visual signal. But at what point that visual signal is translated into a feeling of joy? You may even go to your room and sit down and write a piece of poetry to translate that moment into something sustainable. Or when William Wordsworth saw that girl standing alone, anybody could see a girl standing alone. He also saw a young girl standing alone, but that created a sustainable wonder and mystery about existence, so that he published a poem named Solitary Reaper after 7 years. So such a sustainable. Okay. So what is that? Okay. Similarly, or more or less similarly, very similarly, when you utter this mantra sounds, which are actually coined or designed or created by the great so-called mystics and rishis, who also discovered the planetary positions without any telescope or radars, who also discovered the property of every root and every seed and every leaf and every plant, who also identified the precise number of veins and arteries in the body without operating it, right? Sushumna and all that. So the same kind of mystics created these equations of mantra sounds, uttering which requires the coordination of the neuronal network in order to move the vocal cords in a certain way, will have consequences of, for example, joy or happiness or evolved capacities of the totality of the system. Get the point?
Yes.
Yeah. So mantras, therefore, precisely do not have any meanings. They are configurations of sounds which can be uttered only by a neuronal network other than all the other neuronal networks. And in uttering that neuronal, or in stimulating that neuronal network, the electrical current flowing down to the spinal cord, spreading through the autonomic nervous system, will work little magics here and there in the trillion assemblage of the human structure. It can be anywhere. No. It can be in controlled places depending upon the mantra sounds. Alright? Yeah. There are mantras by which you can simply, your body will become imperceptible to the others. The body will be there, but nobody would be able to see that. That means, that mantras would work even in the air column, air or the ambient light elements, for example. Because that mantra is creating variations, or the invariant property of that mantras will vary the organic processes in such a way that the nearby air column will serve as a barrier that will deny the visual signals being reflected upon.
Yes.
I am just giving an example.
Yeah.
Then that is why mantra should be uttered. There are mantras that should be uttered 3 million times. Yeah. There are certain mantras to be uttered 6 million times. And minimum also is there 108 and all that. Why it is to be repeated? It is to stabilize that neuronal network.
Yes.
Like you master the driving, you in the very beginning you do not know where to turn, what to turn, when to press the clutch, when to shift the gear, etc., etc. Okay? But after 3 months of driving, now you just do it. Just by a moment of intent, INT, you just drive it. Because the body learns it.
Yeah.
Similarly, the body, the fingers learn the guitar. The fingers learn the violin. That's why you take a lot of practice. Because the violin performer or the guitarist is not at all aware. It is not possible to press the frets of the guitar by conscious choice. That's done in the very beginning of learning. Like you consciously shifted the gear from third to the second or second to the first. Now you don't do. You know this is the speed required, pulling power required at this place, and you automatically does it. So similarly, by the initial entry into the mantram uttering neuronal fields, practicing it like Bruce Lee practiced his karate, at a critical turning point, there's a critical turning point in all nature process. Till 99 degree, the water is okay, hot. Last 1 degree, sudden turbulence. Similarly, you go on uttering and practicing it with there are other factors, attention, etc. We will talk later. At a critical turning point, it reaches that boiling point. Then your body will start manifestation. Then what you say will happen. When you say to a tree to bloom, it may bloom. When you say let there be rain, it will rain in hot summer noon, 12 o'clock. So these are the possibilities, because then you meaning that entity of you, that neuronal network of you, where all the powers and power structures are centered, that becomes an operating part of the nature process. So in nature process also, the rain is originated to one point, okay? The rain has to originate somewhere. That happens in nature process. Then once you practice the corresponding mantras, your body too can be a point of origination.
Yeah, so that is how ancient rishis performed sacrifices and said mantras where they could bring rain when there was drought.
Precisely, yeah. So our mantras are, and how you attributed a word, how you attributed a certain sound to represent, symbolically represent a certain thing. Do you get my question? Sanskrit is supposed to be an original language.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, how a certain sound structure is attributed to represent a certain thing. Okay. Like the word Amma to represent that person.
Yes.
That is very clear, because that is the first sound possible, probable for a newborn baby. Opening the mouth, releasing the sound and closing the sound. So throughout history, throughout the world, every child would say Amma, which may be converted into Mama or Mummy and all later. But Amma happens because it is opening the mouth and closing the mouth, depending upon the face and the muscular structure of the vocal structure of the child. Okay. Now, coming back, why a child takes so much of time to utter a word is because in sounding there is an interface of 3 things, 3 linkages. One is, what are the 3? You know, to make a sound, what all engines are to work.
You have to think of the word, you have to use your vocal cords.
One, that knowing that
It's 11:30.
that neuronal network about that word should be there. One, two, yeah.
The vocal cord.
Of course, that vocal assembly, which are finer muscles,
Yes.
which are unusual muscles in the body.
Yeah.
Look at the sangadis being uttered by a genius of Hindustani music. Why normal people take such a lot of time to sing? Because your conscious control should reach that finer muscles.
Yes.
There are names for those muscles, names are not important. They can move the muscles of the hand. They can move the muscles of the vocal cord to talk their language. But it need a little more penetration into the details of the finer muscles movement controlling the final muscle movements in order to so-called sing, especially the so-called vibrations or sangadis. So the knowing or the neural network of knowing that word, then the vocal cord control, and third, which involves what? Yeah.
The third involves air.
Exactly. Address with the lungs. Okay. That means that's why the child takes a lot of time. There is a respiration control,
Yes.
which like in some of the pranayamic method, they talk about, okay, count 7 inhale, count 7 retain, count 7 exhale. Something similar is happening in talking. The breathing rate during talking is very different. The ones who may find it difficult to retain air for even 7 count, will be retaining air for 70 counts when they are talking. Yeah, which they do not become normally aware of. So in other words, there are the neuronal networks involved in the respiration process, involved in vocal control, and involved in registering that mantra. So these mantram sounds are, now we think about the other way, these mantram sounds have been created by the mystic rishis, and those sounds have the capacity to drive the engines of respiration and vocal muscles in a different way, in an unusual way.
Yes.
Like yoga positions of the body are unusual positions.
Correct.
In fact, they are all little bit eccentric positions. A person who does the yogic positions in the first few weeks, he will feel body pain. They are all kind of contorted positions.
Correct.
Doing that, the body becomes much more liberated from the what you call the limits before. It will break the existing limits and go to the next level. Similarly, that talking entity, the context of the talking entity, by virtue of language, especially now, by virtue of that so-called communication tendency that existing in every entity and every human being and much more, finally the you, the identity, that inner awareness of the you is actually founded on that sounds only. We do not know about deaf and dumb people, we do not know. They will have a different design, right? Let us not delve into that, okay? Because the child, the little infant, hears its own sounding. In that boomerang looping, that identity that I am a separate entity, I amness, or what we refer to by the English word I amness, is created and further evolved. Okay? And at the next chapter, this sounding of the mantras is triggering an entity which is much beyond the normal entity. Because the normal entity is constantly maintained by the day-to-day data collection, day-to-day
Yes.
analysis of the data, done by a conclusion about the self.
Correct. Yes.
A conclusion derived over 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of a similar activity of data collection, analysis and conclusion. Okay? That's why I said Gayatri Mantra is an invocation and therefore Gayatri is not a mantra. Mantras will have nothing to comprehend.
Okay.
They are just sound structures, mostly little complex sound structures.
Okay.
Because they are complex only, there are certain what you call conditions apply. Because almost anybody can utter that mantra.
Okay.
But there should be a completeness of sounding. Completeness possible for a given human organic structure. Like Purnat Purna Mudachade, from completeness arises completeness. So the sounding of the mantra by a given person should represent the what you call complete tuning of the strings involved.
Yeah.
It is a given mantra is like I don't know much about those who are good in guitar. It's like a chord, COD, played on a guitar. That is, you press a certain fret of string number 1, another fret of string number 2, another fret of, so the hand will be in a contorted position, pressing 5 strings in different locations. And then you just put it this. Get the point? That is similar to that is a mantra. Okay? You can press 2 strings and then do it. You can press 5 strings, then you can do it. Sound will come. So, mantra, that is one problem, or not a problem, that is one condition with the mantra. It should be generated by all the available strings required to produce that particular sounding of the mantra. That you can identify by gently and slowly uttering it. That means uttering it in slow speed. For example, if you want to say, you see, in our normal conversation or normal talking of not only human being, even of sounding of birds, it happens in a certain frequency, certain speed.
Correct.
For example, if you record your voice in a tape recorder and reduce the speed, how it will be? Or increase the speed, how it will be? In other words, if you are talking, let us say, 10 sounds per second, you cannot do the same talking in 5 sounds per second. Impossible. In a way, definitely 20 sounds in 1 second, it will like ooh, like like a tape recorder. You run fast. You say sound only.
Yeah.
Or if you reduce the speed, because again that particular sound structure meant for a certain sound is not available. Perhaps I used to think that if you take the sound of a bird, record it and reduce the speed and play it, perhaps it may contain a word, we don't know. I'm just giving an example.
Okay, so so can I ask a question now?
Yeah.
So when a mantra is given to you and you have to sound it in a certain way, can you also experiment with changing the speed of utterance and see how it differently impacts you?
That is little advanced step. Before that, you got this idea when I talked about putting all the strings of a given sound, okay? I said how many strings are involved in pronouncing a sound can be known by reducing the speed. With your attention on how your vocal system is generating that sound. For example, ka. How do you produce that ka sound?
Yeah.
By the way, you know, the sounds generated by all human beings are same. Focus with all your attention on how, for example, the sound ka is generated, or how the sound of ka is generated in the air column. All right? So that should be your attention. Because the human entity nor the guitar string can make a sound. in principle. The sound is the vibration of the air column, vibration induced by the vibration of the string. Like you have done your physics experiment, there's an instrument called a sonometer, okay?
Yes.
A string is in a certain tightness and you put a piece of paper on that and you take a tuning fork of let us say 200 cycles per second, you excite it, the paper piece is still.
Recording in progress.
You change the tightness you accordingly and then at a certain tightness the paper string vibrates. Because the vibration created by the tuning fork now can generate a vibration in the string by that particular tightness. Is generated, yeah. So you reduce the speed. In between I said all human beings or the sounds that can be generated by human beings are identical. That is the basis of shorthand method, you know. Only the pattern or the syntax or morpheme or structuring of sounds varying, which generates all different languages. But the sounds are identical only. In other words, all human beings will have to make the sound ka, or the vowels sa, a, e, I, o, u, or all the consonants a, ba, sa, da, or ka, kha, ga, ka, nga. Okay, these sounds will come in all languages. But that is an in-between idea which I said. So whatever is, okay, that is the ka. So you do it slowly, how you make the sound ka. Then trying it with all your attention, you will know exactly what are the strings or what are the frets of varieties, what are the points to be ideally included or excluded in the production of the sound ka. Then in none of the mantras there will be a single sound. Okay? There will be only a combination of sounds. Because to say ka, it is only the normal neuronal network.
Yes.
Yeah, you see?
Yes.
So
yes.
if there is a combination, let us say kla, okay? It can be there in kla can occur in some of the words, like Clinton, Bill Clinton, okay? Or Shukla, the name, alright, okay? Okay? Or Klava, Klav pidicha patram, etc. So it will be that mantra sound in itself will rarely be found in any of the normal words.
Okay.
But it can appear in certain names. If
Yes.
somebody who knows that puts a name to a person with that sound structure itself.
Okay.
Okay. That's all. But in general it won't be like that. So
Yes.
you have to first identify the exact fret points, or if it is a piano, exact keys required for ka, then
Yes.
exact keys required for kla.
Yeah.
For example, I am taking one of the mantra sounds, and
Yes.
exact keys required for making the sound structure clean,
Yeah.
for example. It is definitely possible. Or at least attempts can be made. Mind you, every moment of your practice is adding on to your central nervous system.
Right.
There cannot be a single moment of the central nervous system without receiving a signal from or data from the environment or within the body. So even your attention, your sincere attention to identify the positions involved or the keys, K-E-Y-S, keys involved in the pronunciation or the uttering of the sound structure claim, every moment of that attempt also is adding on to that total network.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So you don't have to be a particular, you may not reach a particular limited point where this is the boundary of, let's say, claim. But at a certain point, by that critical turning point theory, at a certain point, your own system will give you a feeling that, yeah, now I got it. And then it will work. So now answering to the question back, uttering such sound structures, being kept in the neuronal network of the central brain, cerebral cortex, pronouncing which will require the coordination of the vocal cord and the air column, which are moved by the work of the autonomic nervous system, will create a change in the body, in the intelligence process, in the intellect, and trigger the spirit. All these things together will make the so-called sound of the mind also much more sublime and clear.
Beautiful. Master, my next question is connected to this because mantras are so powerful in their impact on the individual. How does a person choose a mantra to be uttered, or is it something which only a guru can choose for you?
The one who does that is the guru.
Okay. Yeah. Yes.
The guru will explain all these things for not only that reason, Meenakshi, because this is given to a certain person because a certain person needs to be eligible for that. Just every entity in this planet Earth has its own destiny. I have done so much of research into destiny. Let us say, even a piece of paper has a destiny. Okay? Let us say your own books, okay? How many copies?
Here there are 2 copies.
And how many copies print order?
Print order,
Whatever, okay, 5,000 or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Okay?
5,000.
5,000 entities of that book. One of them is on your table.
yes.
One of them would end up on the table of a CEO.
Yeah.
One of them would end up in a dustbin
Yeah.
and picked up by a, what you call, rag picker and recycled.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay? There is a dog here. Or there was a dog maintained by your daughter.
Yeah.
Look at his destiny.
Oh, very lucky.
And your daughter spent more than lakh of rupees to take it to the hospital and all that.
Absolutely.
That's
Yes.
all.
More than on her.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that is a simple example of destiny which is there even for a piece of paper.
Yeah.
There's a pencil on your table. There's a microphone on your table. Thousands or 10 million microphones of that type. That one has the, let us say, destiny to be on your table. Okay, receiving the sound generated by such a wonderful being as the you, and listening and transforming your sounds of your questions or the vibrations of the sounds of your questions into electrical signals and sending it.
Yes.
Whereas other microphones are doing something else. Similarly, every human being also, fortunately or unfortunately, has that path of life which is called a destiny. Okay, if it is completely explained and told to the public, it is not a happy thing, no doubt. Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
let it be like that. Because they would need a great lot of philosophy not to feel happy. So they will take a little bit of a compensation by going to the temples and every day hoping and praying and all that, by which they manage their life. That's why temples and mosques and churches are essential for those majority of people to manage the turbulence of their destiny, unnecessary turbulence of their destiny. Not able to comprehend why my neighborhood guy is becoming wonderful and I am not equally qualified. So that frustration, that disparity of understanding can be to an extent managed by going to a temple and praying for a better tomorrow.
Yes.
Therefore temples are absolutely essential. That's a different story. The point here is, unless the so-called person realizes that this guy, this person, this girl or boy is eligible to be evolved into that direction, he cannot do that. Like you are a great teacher. Think about a moment when the stupid student or notorious student coming and sitting on the other side and asking a doubt. Of course, we will explain. Let us say so. And the most brilliant student and sitting there and asking explanation. You will talk at least 1 hour more. That's all. You are not going to see him again in your lifetime. But still,
Yeah.
your awareness that he is a brilliant student, he would benefit out of your extra explanation, you will unknowingly flow, FLOW flow. Whereas with the other student, you will have to really work hard to explain things. Yeah. Similarly, unless you are convinced that this guy is eligible for the gift of the jewel of your understanding about mantra, you cannot do that. You will not do that. You don't need any instruction. You will automatically feel. Like you will be automatically attracted to the brilliant student to explain a lot of things. You will automatically know that. Then another reason also is there. That is why normally in the conventional times mantras would be delivered only to the so-called disciples in the monastery.
Yeah.
But because at those times, those disciples were dedicated people who have taken an oath to live that kind of a life. To them, they would give some ultimate levels of mantras, doing which they will become plus 3 sigma kind of evolved beings.
Okay.
In such cases, there are certain danger points. Yeah, real danger points in the sense that
Okay. Okay.
by uttering the mantras in general, you will transcend your given self-image to a next level, okay?
Yes. That's
But,
the point.
but in certain kind of mantras, that shift to the next level will be just much, much way beyond. And that individual should be having that emotional power to manage that shift.
Okay.
If that power is not there, he may collapse. He would take the jump and not reach anywhere. You see, it would be somewhat like, it is quite corresponding to the word pencil which is clear and the word clean which is unclear. Get the point?
Yeah.
Till then the self was the word pencil.
Yeah.
When you belong to the word of the mantras, your self is known as clean, with no meaning. Get the point? Then you belong nowhere.
Yes.
But of course you are aware of everything, but that ongoing unconsciously maintained identity which has been triggered and developed from childhood onwards, that is being affected. Then only we will know the power of the unconscious. That entire recorded data will be kind of become irrelevant. At that moments of confusion and chaos, the Guru would be supporting him, that's all.
Okay.
When such, if or when such mantras are given. Otherwise, there is no significance for the Guru at all.
Okay, leading from this question is my next, why is it that some important mantras are only uttered and given to a student and are not recorded in a book which anybody can access and say? Is there a differentiation between the two kinds of mantras?
Yes.
Can
In
you
fact,
explain?
I have a book which gives almost 30 or 40 mantras. They are also very powerful mantras secretly kept in the past. But as time progressed, as the society evolved, somebody dared to collect all those things and print it in a book. But even then only like-minded people will buy it. And even if somebody buys it by the peripheral attraction, they cannot proceed it beyond that point. When they see that a minimum number of times required to utter a mantra is 1 lakh times, a lot of people will do that. Unless those who are employed, like a pujari in the temple or somebody like that. Now, why it is not? Because you don't keep most precious jewels on the roadside to sell, that's all.
Yeah.
A similar principle. You will keep your finest language to be uttered to your romantic angel partner. How will you go and say, my most beloved, wonderful person to a guy on the road? But that's a very metaphorical explanation, because you cannot, even now in India, open weapon sales is not allowed, because you do not know who will use it.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Because,
Yes.
by the way, an evil is more determined and powerful than a so-called great good. The most so-called, if there is somebody most wonderful, okay, I mean, the absolute extreme of a good being, much more inspired and powerful is an evil being. That's the design of the design of existence. And that if that evil person is happens to get inspired about one of these mantras, and because of the circumstantial facilities, if he sits down in a corner of an abandoned room and go on uttering a mantra 1 lakh times, and if he develops that power, he would use it for definitely some evil purpose only. Because his evilness is created at the seed level.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Every human being is formed, I would say, even before the man and woman has come together. Alright? There are an average 2.5 to 3 million sperms in a single ejaculation of a healthy person. Every one of that is an individual. Okay? Why a certain sperm? It depends upon the mindset, it depends upon the level of tuning, of course the soundness of the body, soundness of the mind, etc., some unknown number of variables. Also, you look at the normal distribution, you have to always keep in mind a wonderful truth of the universe called normal distribution principle. In the umpteen number of sexual activity happening in the world, how many of them are likely to be genuine? Definitely 50% of them under poor conditions. That means poor quality of mind, poor quality of body, poor quality of hygiene, etc., etc., etc. When every cat is a cat, the birth time, the conception of that cat's time is predetermined by the nature process, because cats cannot afford to be incompetent. They don't have universities and colleges for a lifetime to learn and develop. So human beings are freewheeling, okay, so that they can have a sexual intercourse at any point of time. That's why there is a normal distribution. Okay. So when you reach that level, you will know, for example, by the normal distribution principle, that +3 sigma and beyond. Okay. Only those should be given this high level. Only though, by the by, I told you about destiny. Only that particular book will come on your table. That was picked out of the collection by one guy and put it in a packet and sent it to you. And that book, out of the 5,000 copies, mind you, do not take it for granted. Out of that 5,000 copies, only that copy had the destiny to come back to the spirit that created it. Same is the case. Similarly, you must be an extraordinary entity, otherwise you just cannot be interested in this. No doubt about that. You not only want to know mantra, you want to know entire history of that. You want to know the completeness of that. You want to get completed about your understanding of that. What in you is telling you that? Somebody told you to do that? Even if somebody told you, why should you do that? Why you should be obedient to execute that instruction?
yeah,
So there
that's
is
an
some other variable.
Yeah.
That is the destiny design of you. It is not a result out of your, okay, you are very highly qualified, you are doing a very highly competent job, and etc. etc. This has nothing to do about that, or they have nothing to do about this. Okay? Then why you are interested?
The inspiration from within.
Pardon me?
It's an inspiration from within.
They are all, what you said now is a mantra to represent whatever you represented. You said it is an inspiration from within, okay?
Yeah.
It referred to what? What is the referent of that? What is the referent reality of that? Okay? There was a moment of perception.
Yes.
That perception got translated into those English words.
Words, exactly.
Similarly, mantras are certain sounds which will induce their corresponding feelings or experiences in the body. Got it?
Very
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. So following that.
I think in between you asked whether you can create your own design of mantras. Something like that.
I was asking, will the speed of chanting of a mantra,
It's very important. Of course, it is important.
can the variations create different impacts in you?
Definitely. No. Mantras are to be uttered in a different speed only. Because then only it will have its completeness of expression. Otherwise, a lot of its tips will get damaged by the speed. It is like an optimum speed of the vehicle.
Yeah.
If you maintain a minimum speed, you will not reach the destination.
Yes.
If you go in high speed, you will not be able to enjoy the sights around.
Correct.
It should be 60, 70, 80 kilometers.
Yes.
Similarly.
Yes.
So, for a song, let us say, mantra, we can call, why a song is a song? In fact, in principle, everybody who talks can also sing. But singing requires speed variation. 1. 2. Pitch variation.
Yes.
And according to certain rhythmic speed variation and pitch variation, that's all. So similarly, mantras are highest kind of songs. So it should be uttered in a certain pitch, in a certain speed, and in a certain timing between two mantras.
Yes. So, Master, I have another question now. Suppose a person is chanting 2 mantras.
Once again?
Suppose a person is chanting 2 mantras
All right.
every day.
Yeah.
Now, these 2 mantras have to be connected to one another, or can they operate in opposite ways in the person?
I don't know precisely about that in the sense that I cannot consider 2 mantras working in opposite ways. No. Opposite you mean contradicting the progression of one, right?
One. Yes,
It is,
cancelling the progression of one.
it is not normally possible,
Okay.
but it can happen by wrong uttering of mantras.
Okay.
Like mantras are like chords of guitar, piano, let us say so.
Yeah.
Chords will go together. That's why a certain mantra is created.
Yeah.
But there, if you make a error in the keys,
Yeah.
then the chord will go disharmonious.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes.
that is all. Other than that, one chord is not against another chord, not at all.
Okay. Okay. So then one mantra can fortify another?
Of course, that is possible. That is there.
And
That is there. A certain mantra will finish a certain story of the building, and next mantra will create the next story. Yes.
yes.
That's what happens in most of the. That is what happened in most of the ancient monasteries where such trainings were given. Because the mantra given to a 14-year-old boy will be of a lesser power than the one given to a 23-year-old boy.
Understood. Okay. Okay. So you would have followed the same logic when you gave me the mantras as well.
Yeah, definitely.
And so I can expect
Because
the
if the purpose is to drive a bike, you have to begin with a cycle only.
Yes.
Ideally, you can begin with a bike also. But No, nothing wrong about that. But by that time you are at least 20 years old. You cannot give a bike to a 10-year-old guy.
Yes.
So if I had given you a bike, that's because you are mature enough and competent enough to get it.
Okay. Okay. So I can expect the next mantra when I'm ready for it.
Yeah.
Okay, Master, thank you so much for this illustration.
Now things are clear, right? You visualize the three spokes of the mantra which you yourself identified. That so-called in our conventional or peripheral language, that knowing recorded in the neuronal networks, translating itself into the doing of the combination of harmonious activity of the lungs, vocal cords, which will require harmonious delivery of electrical impulses from the autonomic nervous system, and everything is interconnected in the body, and when such an autonomic harmony is happening, it will spread, it will generalize into all the body, and which will reflect in the so-called sound of the body called mind.
Yes.
Alright, clear?
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Good luck to you, Meenakshi.
Thank you. Thank you.